Mind Shift Power Podcast.
This is Mind Shift Power Podcast, the #1 critically acclaimed podcast where we have raw, unfiltered conversations that shape tomorrow. I'm your host, Fatima Bey, the Mind Shifter. And welcome, everyone. Today we have with us Kelvin Abrams, and he is out of Maryland in the U.S. He is an author, an entrepreneur, and a successful mistake maker. And we're going to talk about that today. How are you doing, Kelvin?
I'm doing great, Fatima. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
Thank you for coming on. I'm really looking forward to all the stuff you're going to say to my audience today. So I like to dive right in. Let's start off by telling us your background.
Okay, let's see. My background is I grew up in New Jersey, went to school at Rutgers University, came out of Rutgers, and then became a federal investigator for a period of time here in Maryland. And from there, I started my first business back in 2008 or 2007.
Oh, that's a while ago now.
Yeah, it's actually been one month shy of 17 years.
Wow. So what was your first business?
My first business was back in high school. No, probably junior high school. We had, for money, what we would do is sell our old toys out of my bedroom. So my first job was back then. And then also, we had to hustle for money. So back in the day where Lee jeans and the fat shoestring Adidas were out and popular, we would go up to Philly and New York. And so we would cut grass and rake leaves and shovel snow and hustle to make our own money so we can go get our clothing so we can look fly. If you remember that word from back in the day,
I do.
Fly.
You just really age yourself, but yeah. You just told me how old
A fly girl.
Yeah.
A fly girl.
Oh my God. Back in 1856, I remember. Now
That's right.
So even as a teenager, you found a way to be an entrepreneur, you and your friends.
Absolutely. I think it was just in my blood. Like in my book, I like to say you're born an entrepreneur. And that's just my humble opinion, is that you're born an entrepreneur. And I knew very young that I was a free-spirited kind of creative person from the very beginning. I would, there are certain toys that I would want, and then I would try to make those toys or make those objects out of cardboard or plywood. So, for example, my family never went skiing, but I wanted to always ski. So my brother and we got some plywood and kind of cut it like a ski, wrapped it around our feet, and we made a snow mound, and we tried to go skiing down the snow mound. So that, I've always been creative. And then we used to have this little shed in the backyard, and, I always wanted to go skydiving, and I did as an adult. And so my brother and I would take like sheets or bags or whatever and jump off the house, the little shed, and try to fly down or skydive down. So yeah, I've always been creative since I was little.
Wow. You know what? You just bring a point that I say continuously, and I have in some other podcast episodes talking about this. When we're young and we're creative, that is our bodies telling us, what we're meant to do. It's our body trying to discover our purpose. And so parents listening out there, if you have a child who's curious about everything like that, foster that. There's a reason why they're so curious. And if they're creative like that, foster that, because they may be the next millionaire. Now, tell us, Kelvin, what is your business now?
Well, I have a few businesses. So the first business I officially started as an adult, I would say, is my Doggy Daycare boarding facility. It's called Tiki's Playhouse. And the second business from there was a doggy ice cream truck that I no longer have. Yeah, I had the first doggy ice cream truck in Maryland. I would go around. I loved it. I miss it, though, because I started my third business, which is K9 and Coffee. And so I had to get rid of the ice cream truck because I just couldn't maintain the ice cream truck and all of that stuff but while running a coffee shop called K9 and Coffee. And then my third business came by way of opportunity, and that's a gym that I own called American Fitness Express. And they're all kind of in the same neighborhood. They're right across the street from each other. So I have three businesses that are right here across the street from each other. And then a fourth business is my online platform course that I have called Get Uncomfortable or Change Course, setting yourself up for success. So those are the four businesses that I have. And of course, I got 2 or 3 more on the back burner that once I get through these businesses and get these businesses where I want them to be, then I'll go ahead and start working on the other 2 or 3 businesses that I have
All right.
in
So
mind.
what I hear is that you are successfully running several businesses, not just one. And that is not easy to do. Definitely not
Well,
easy to do.
I don't know how you define success, but I wouldn't say I'm successfully running all of them. I would just say I successfully work at all of them.
Well, let's define success by what I'm saying with this. It doesn't mean that everything's perfect or that everything is where you want it to be right now, but you are maintaining them, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You are maintaining them, and the fact that you even were able to create them is a success. There
Yes, it
are
is.
levels to success.
Yes,
Would you
ma'am.
agree?
I do. Absolutely.
Now, are you a multi-billionaire because of it right now? No. But that doesn't mean you're not successful. And I think that's important to point out to our youth and to the adults listening. Success doesn't look like just one thing. Success is reaching a goal. One level of success is reaching a goal that you went for, that you had. Have you done that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, starting my first business and at first when I started it and I started in 2008 when President Obama got elected, and that was when the housing market crashed. And of course, everybody blamed it on Obama, but the housing market crashed. And that first year in business, oh man, I used to pray and pray. And I mean, I remember times and I was out in the yard in the rain and I'm yelling and screaming up at God, asking him, why did he do this to me? And blah, blah, blah.
Really?
And so, yeah, I mean, it was tough. So I would say success for me is making it past the first year. And then after that, the milestone that every business owner has to go through, which is year 3 and then year 5. When you hit that hurdle at year 5, then that's usually when you can kind of coast and you know that you're going to survive. And luckily, I've been able to survive. And it's been 17 years here come next month.
Wow. You just defined one definition of success. And like I said, there are levels. And you're living proof of that. That's why I brought up the fact that you have so many businesses. And they may not be where your bigger vision wants it to go to yet, but that doesn't mean you're not on the way there. You have other successes that you've already succeeded with. And I think that's a wonderful
Absolutely.
thing.
My journey is, I'm at the beginning of my journey, very beginning. I have such a long way to go. But yeah.
I feel that way too. I totally get that. Now, tell us, I said you're a successful mistake maker. So I was lying, right? Because you've made no mistakes and everything was perfect as soon as you started your business. That's how it works, right?
Yeah, okay. I got an island to sell you.
Fantasyland. So tell us how mistakes have paved the way for your successes.
So I like to tell people, like I do every so often, I speak at a local library here to my community because I'm trying to give back to the community and help others not to make the same mistakes that I make. And so my mistakes over the years, I've learned from them, or I like to say I've learned from them. And there are a few times that I had to go back around the corner and learn that same lesson twice. But again, I learned from it. And so I always tell people that failure equals success. And the thing I always say to people is I've never been afraid to fail because I've been failing my entire life. I mean, I've failed in school. I've failed classes. I failed at Rutgers University. I had to redo my whole first semester because I partied like an animal. So I made the choice to party and not study. So I failed at college and I had to redo the first year all over again, and it cost me money and it set me back. I failed at relationships, you name it. I failed and got fired from jobs. So I've been failing my entire life. So I'm not afraid of failure at all. But failure to me, to answer your question, failure to me equals success. And that's why I welcome failure.
Now, you have a book. What is the name of that book?
It's called Get Uncomfortable or Change Course.
And what does this conversation have to do with your book?
Oh, it's everything with my book. The title alone, Get Uncomfortable or Change Course. So what I'm saying is get uncomfortable, which is get used to failing, get used to being uncomfortable, get used to being at the edge of your seat, get used to sleepless nights, get used to the anxiety, used to having no money in your pocket, get used to not eating, get used to not sleeping and staying up all night, get used to missing vacations and holidays and birthdays and funerals, getting used to just missing social events in life, and forget about your hobbies. Get used to just being work, work, work 24/7, period. So get uncomfortable. And if you're not willing to get uncomfortable, then change course. And change course means stay with your 9 to 5.
What is the drawback of doing a 9 to 5 versus having your own business?
For me, creativity and freedom. So creativity to me is, my brain doesn't stop. I mean, I go to sleep at night, and when that creative brain starts working, I get up and I write it down. So constantly, once a week or more, I'm writing things down. If not, first thing I get up in the morning is I start writing that stuff down so that I can remember. And working a 9 to 5 to me that's great. That's a stable career. That's a stable job for somebody. And if that's what they want, to me, it's the comfort zone. And I don't live in a comfort zone. And a 9 to 5 is a comfort zone. And there's nothing bad about a 9 to 5. And I applaud everybody that, especially nowadays, the way things are, I applaud everybody who has a 9 to 5. But for me, a 9 to 5 is basically death. And I say death because it doesn't allow me to be creative. It doesn't allow me to be free. It doesn't allow me to be the person I was meant to be.
Yes. So being uncomfortable and making mistakes is a part of success, yes?
Yes.
And can we reach success without those two things?
I don't think so. Every successful athlete, every successful celebrity, every successful product out there will have failure. Failure goes all the way back to Isaac Newton discovering electricity, right? It goes all the way back to Bill Gates and Microsoft, Bill Gates and Microsoft creating Microsoft in his garage. And then it goes back to Apple Computer, all the failures that they made before they became successful. It goes back to Oprah Winfrey. Look at all the failures and problems that Oprah Winfrey had, all the abuse that Oprah Winfrey had, and where's she? So failure equals success. Absolutely. Michael Jordan would tell you that. Tiger Woods would tell you that. Any athlete out there on top of their game will tell you success equals failure. Serena Williams, you name it.
Absolutely. And every singer had a whole bunch of unsuccessful notes before they had a successful one we saw on stage.
Absolutely. and a whole bunch of rappers had their demo tape thrown back at them before they became successful. Exactly. So failure equals success.
It does. But failure doesn't equal success by itself. What else is needed to go with that failure?
Determination, drive, and David Goggins has this famous phrase that he likes to say, taking souls. And taking souls means you have to have that grit, that determination. You have to give that nobody's going to fucking take shit from me. And you have to just be like devious. And you just have to be like hardcore like David Goggins. I love his book. He's got a book called You Can't Hurt Me. And I read that book once and I listened to the podcast twice. And that dude is crazy. But you know what? Taking souls is a lifestyle. Taking souls is a mentality. Taking souls is you're not going to take this from me. I'm going to overcome anything you throw at me. So you have to have the mentality of I'm going to overcome no matter what you do to me. You can't hurt me. And that's the mentality that I live by. You can't hurt me no matter what you do. I'm not afraid of failure. I failed plenty of times. I don't care about failing. The thing I care about is when I meet when I go and I'm approaching the pearly gates, I want that person to say to me, hey, congratulations, you failed, versus why didn't you give it your all? Why didn't you try? I've given you life. I gave you the opportunity. I gave you the creativity. Why didn't you try? Why were you afraid? And that's not going to be me. I'm going to go to the pearly gates and he's going to say, job well done.
So what mistakes for the youth that are out there listening right now the year is 2025 right now. What mistakes would you say that you see some of them making right now?
I see it all the time with my employees. And what that is that the generation nowadays, instead of crawling and then slowly learning how to walk and then jogging and then running, the generation today they want to go right out the womb and they want to be running a 10K marathon right out the womb. And that's where their problem is. And that's why they fail. And that's why they're not going to be successful, because I think technology and social media has ruined the generation today, because everybody wants a fast buck. Look at all these influencers. Everybody wants to be an influencer and be a Kylie Jenner or whatever those girls are that sell makeup and perfume and all that stuff, and do face makeup on TikTok and all of that stuff. So everybody, this generation is looking for a fast buck. Gone is the generation when you work from the bottom up. This generation comes right out of high school asking for top dollar with no experience. So I think that's going to be the failure of this generation.
So what should they do instead? Because where they should be, they're not. So that's where they are right now. We're here. What can they do from here?
Humble themselves. Be humble. And go back to the very beginning. Get a mentor. Get someone older. Get someone who's been there. Get someone, if you want to be an influencer, go find someone who did it from the bootstraps up. Go talk to a business owner. Find the oldest business that you can find in your neighborhood and go talk to that business owner and learn from that business owner. Every small business that you see has a story. So go to any small business that you know and don't be afraid to ask to talk to your owner, and don't be afraid to get a mentor or ask the owner to be your mentor and have him or her teach you. Because today, what you're learning on social media and what they're learning on TikTok and what they're learning on the internet is just garbage. It's filling their mind with garbage, and it's not filling their mind with the core values and the basics, like showing up to work 10 minutes early, being ready to work, not showing up to work at 8:01 and then having to go put your bag away and finish your Starbucks coffee that costs you $10 and then sit down and reply to a text message before you start working. No. Get back to the basics. Show up 10 minutes early, ready to work, and be available after your shift. And don't say it's 4:00, I got to go. Be available until the job is done after your shift. And that's what's wrong with this generation.
So mindset is what I hear. And what I also hear you saying is that they need to, I want to add to that. You said that they should get mentors and start, talking to people who have been running businesses. And I completely agree with that part. I want to add to that. Just because someone is, and I'm talking to the young audience right now, just because someone is older and started a business in 1974 and things are very different now than they were back then, you still have something to learn from them. You can take the principles that they use to be successful and apply them to your modern world, because you don't live in the world he grew up in or he started in. We don't live in 2008, but you can still take the principles from what somebody else went through and apply
Absolutely.
them. Just change some of the details around. We now have
Absolutely.
AI. We now have the internet. That is a really big deal. And AI can do a lot for you. And I love AI, but I also understand how it can be damaging if you rely on it too much.
Very much so.
There are lots of ways of modernizing the advice you get. So don't assume because someone's older and they lived in a different time with a different technology and they seem all out of date, their principles are never out of date. Some of their details might be, but their principles aren't. Learn how to listen to principles and not just details.
Absolutely.
And you can hear things differently. So
Absolutely.
what advice, what else? I hear you saying that mindset is one of the things that our youth need to change because our culture has taught them a bad mindset. I would agree with that. A lot of mindsets have been incorrectly taught. But there are some youth that, okay, they grew up in this world. They can't help that they were taught these things by our culture because they were born when they were born. They can try to change their mindset. They can try to find someone who runs a business. What else can they do in today's world to try to be successful for tomorrow?
That's a great question. So, two things I would say. One is, I've already talked about it, which is get a mentor. And then the second thing is look for free programs or free opportunities to better yourself.
There you go.
There are a lot of grants that are out there. There are a lot of educational programs that are out there. There are a lot of state fund programs. federal funded programs like I mentioned in my book, Get Uncomfortable or Change Course, that I went, when I started my business, I went and I spoke to a SCORE representative from the Small Business Administration for about a year. And boy, that guy taught me a lot. I mean, I thought I knew what I was doing. And after about 4 or 5 times of him ripping my business plan apart and marking it full of red X's and marks and question marks and all of that stuff, I learned a hard lesson. It humbled me very quickly. So I would say there's plenty of free, and the word is free, opportunity out there, educational opportunities, learning tools and advice, and online courses. Don't be afraid to pay for some online courses to learn. It's all about continuing education.
Yes, education is so important, but there's so many different ways to get it. And you're right. Well, in the US anyway, and I know in the UK too, there are so many opportunities to learn stuff for free. If you have the internet, you got a whole encyclopedia right there. You can learn a lot of stuff for free. Just go to YouTube and use it as a search engine. There's so much that you can do to learn. If you don't have people around you who know what you want to learn, then find the online presence that can do that. And I don't care what you want to learn, there's something out there. I completely agree with that. So what does your course offer? Since you say they should learn from taking courses, what does your course offer?
So my online course is all about setting yourself up for success. So it goes deeper than my book goes. It just talks about everything from a business plan to meeting the banker, what the banker's expectations are, what your marketing expectations will be, what your social media expectations will be, and and your bookkeeping and financial expectations should be. So my course, basically, I gathered my team together, people that I work with and trust, and I spoke with my lawyer, I spoke with CPA, bookkeeper, I spoke with my marketing person, content writer, I spoke with my mentor, and I spoke with my banker. And so I got information and insight from everybody as to what's really needed to create a successful business from the ground up. And this business plan is, my course is not the end of all end, but what it is it's a great start for you to get going. It talks to how to write a business plan, what's important in the business plan. Everybody focuses on talking about me in the business plan and what you've done and putting nice little pretty pictures up in your business plan. But the reality of it is when a banker looks at you, they may look at your mission statement and immediately turn to your financial section, which is your 3-year performa. And that's exactly what they turn to. And that's what they base their decision on is the finances. And to get to the finances, there are 6 C's that the bank talk about that you have to, which are in my online course. So my online course, there are the 6 C's that the bankers look at when they come in and they look at your resume and they look at you as a person. There's 6 criteria that they look for. So my online course is a great start for someone who either looking to start a business and afraid and don't know how, because it provides resources, it provides links and things like that. And then also it's a great course for someone who's stuck and not really sure which way to go in their business. So I think I've tried to gear it towards people that are looking to start their business, but also I think people that have started their business and have a few problems would benefit from my course as well too.
That's great. It's nice to have it all in one place. And it sounds like your course is built for today, not yesterday. Correct?
Correct.
And I say that because there's a lot of people out there giving advice from 1942.
Right.
And they're like, this was true back in 2001, but it's not true now. But the fact that you reached out to people today to create this course tells me that this is something that they can use for the future. I like to talk about the future, not just the past here, because our youth they're growing up in a different world, and I want them to be successful in the current and coming world, not in the one we grew up in. So I really like that.
You mentioned something about principles and the core values of principles. So I have a mentor who's about 75 years old, and I've known him for about 7 years. He's a self-made man. He almost went through bankruptcy, like I almost filed bankruptcy when I was going through starting my business. And then he got his break. And he loves to say this, is that his famous quote that he uses is, "You make your own good luck." And I quote that in my book, that you make your own good luck. And what that means for him is that it's up to you. to create your own good luck. You know, everybody goes out and buys a Powerball ticket and a Mega Million ticket, and we keep praying and hoping that we win, right? But you got to make your own good luck. And what that is opportunity. You have to create the opportunity. And so there's some principles, you mentioned principles before, there's some principles that he lives by as a 75-year-old that I totally disagree with. But at the same time, I take the core value of what he says to me and I turn it around in today's world and in my mindset, and I use what he gives me, because here's this guy who almost filed bankruptcy, had a family, self-made man. He's a millionaire now, self-made man, and he's still doing it at 75. He has 2 companies still doing it at 75. So I listen to what he has to say. Now, I may not take every advice he has to say,
Right.
but I take the core values, and I use it for in today's world.
I like to say my way of wording that is eat the meat and spit out the bones.
Yes.
You gotta, just because someone, it kind of goes with what I was just saying. You've gotta, just because someone gives you their advice and what worked for them, that may not be the way that it'll work for you in detail, but the principles don't really change. The principles of success are the same for all of us. They just look different. But sometimes you can listen to the way the person did it and okay, now I get it. And you get a different view, and that makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
And for all of my youth out there, just because you're young, do not let anybody treat you like you're stupid. You're not. And sometimes you might be smarter than them.
Yeah, amen. You just got to find your way. Got to find your way.
Yes. And finding your way means making mistakes. You got to try. You don't know how far you could run until you try running.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
You don't know how well you can build a car till you start building.
Amen.
You know, and you're going to make mistakes when you do that. If you don't, and you never make mistakes, you're perfect. Well, then you should probably wake up because you overslept. You were dreaming. That ain't real.
I like that. You're still dreaming.
Because you're still dreaming. Yeah. You overslept. It's time to go to school. But the reality is, and I say this because so often, and this is like a repeat theme I keep hearing my guests say on my podcast. When we look at social media, which is what, if you're a teenager or a young adult right now, which you're paying attention to all day long, because that's what you grew up with, we see the highlight reels of people's lives. We see the highlight reels of their successes. We don't see how many times they failed before they put the pretty stuff in front of you.
Amen.
And you got to remember that. Don't be ashamed of making mistakes, and do not let any stupid adult put you down. And I said stupid because you made a mistake. See, you should have never done that. They can shut up and you can keep going and try again.
That's right.
Because I can tell you right now, and Kelvin will agree, he would not be sitting here with me right now if he had let his first letdown, his first failure, cause him to stop. Right?
And if I would have listened to people that told me to stop, I wouldn't be here today. I mean, I've had plenty of friends and family members saying, give up. Why don't you just give up?
Yep.
And, I'm like, no, man, they're going to have to roll me out of this building, and I'm okay with that. Because that way I know that I gave everything I had and I left it on the field. Just like you hear athletes saying they left it on the court, they left it on the field. I gave everything. So if I stop trying, then that's going to be the day they're wheeling me out of this building.
Yes. And I love what you were saying earlier about the determination, because here's the thing. Most people don't realize it's not the most gifted that succeed. It's the most persistent.
No. Oh, amen. It's the most persistent.
It's the most persistent. The ones who don't give up, who keep trying, to keep going until they get it right. And go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize. So, it is the person that just never gives up, right? But I learned this a long time ago from a guy who owned 45 Pizza Huts in the state of Maryland, multimillionaire. And what he said to me, and then I had another client of mine that had 7 restaurants, and he was, again, another multimillionaire. And the best advice both of them gave to me is every 3 years, reinvent yourself. And that doesn't mean start a new business every 3 years. No. What it means is every 3 years, reinvent yourself, because if not, you're going to get stale. And you don't want to be stale. And the example that I like to use is this. Iron Mike Tyson, no doubt the greatest boxer that has ever lived and the youngest world champion ever, got comfortable. And when he got comfortable, there was a guy named Buster Douglas Jr. that had nothing to lose. He had everything to gain. And that guy was relentless. He trained, he worked hard, he believed, etc. And Mike Tyson walked in there comfortable. And when he walked in there comfortable, he came out uncomfortable because he got comfortable. So every 3 years, I think it's so important that you reinvent yourself every 3 years. Just pivot and do something different every 3 years. I'm not saying change your industry, change that. No. What I'm saying is maybe add to your service, maybe change your service a little bit, maybe be more creative with your service. Just reinvent yourself every 3 years and never let yourself get comfortable. That's when you start to fail, is when you get comfortable.
And if you own a restaurant, that might mean adding something to the menu.
Exactly.
There's always a way
Whether
of
it
doing
be,
that.
what is it now, vegan or gluten-free
Yeah.
or whatever. Add whatever to your menu, but you're 100% correct.
Yeah, and I love that. I was just going to ask you what's your advice for the youth today, and then you already just gave it to me. Stop reading my mind.
There it is. Pivot. Every 3 years, pivot. Reinvent yourself.
I actually
every
really
3
like
years.
that advice, and I see what you're saying, and I think it's pretty wise. We do get stale if we do the same thing over and over again for too long, and when we become stale, we become comfortable, and comfort is
complacent.
sometimes our biggest enemy.
Yep.
Sometimes comfort is the biggest enemy to success. Thus your book and your course, Get Uncomfortable.
Yeah, amen. I mean, another example is, I hate to say this, but in today's modern world, look at Sean Puffy Combs, P. Diddy. P. Diddy got comfortable doing his little freak-offs and started getting more wild and wilder and wilder, and he got comfortable, and all of a sudden, he forgot. He forgot who he was, what world he's in. He forgot. And look where he's at right now. He got comfortable.
And I hope he suffers in jail, but that's another conversation. So,
Yeah. I hope he fries in jail too. But I mean, hey, that's another conversation. I mean, to be beating up on a woman, come on, man.
I'm glad he's being publicly embarrassed. Let me just say
right.
I'm really glad. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly.
Now, but you're right. But even though you use him as an example, there are other people we can think of as well. When we get comfortable, arrogance sets in. Yep. We start getting loose with the bad things we're doing, and he's an example of that. He's not the only one. There's plenty of others. There's plenty of others. But when we get comfortable, we stop being innovative. When we get comfortable, we stop trying to look for the next gain. When we get comfortable, we stop trying to upgrade. When we get comfortable, we stop trying to be better. And that's why being uncomfortable is a good thing. So, where can people find your uncomfortable book?
Thank you. I have a website called www.kelvinabrams.com, and I'm sure you'll provide a link, but it's spelled Kelvin Abrams, ABRAMS.com. So kelvinabrams.com, they'll find my book. I have a workbook. They'll find a link to my workbook as well as my online course. And also they'll see some of my podcasts that I've done in the past sitting right there as well.
Well, thank you once again, Kelvin, for coming on and being a guest. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me.
And now for a mind-shifting moment. I want to take you back to something that Kelvin said that I think is very important. He said to reinvent yourself every 3 years. I want to focus on the principle behind that statement. Are you allowing yourself to get stale? Are you just going along to get along and never reassessing or looking to make changes? This is applicable not just in business, but in your relationships. In other areas of life, are you just staying the same and becoming stale? I want you to think about how powerful that principle is. It's not just about reinventing yourself. It's about reassessing. Are you reassessing yourself once in a while? Are you reassessing your relationship? Are you reassessing your career? Are you reassessing how you handle your finances? Just something to think about. You've been listening to Mind Shift Power Podcast. For complete show notes on this episode and to join our global movement, find us at fatimabay.com. Until next time, always remember, there's power in shifting your thinking.